Hello and welcome to the Martial Arts Teaching Tactics Podcast. I'm Chris Kent, and I'm joining Chris Bean. Mr. Bean?
Hello, sir.
Today we're going to continue our discussion on what to do with your students. So last episode we talked about new students. We talked about several things, including onboarding those trial students, deciding where they come from, how to contact them, especially with the importance of using a phone script. And we also talked about their first class, so getting them into the class, making sure all their information is taken care of, they have all the things that they need, they're introduced well into your studio, they're prepared for what's going to happen. We get them in the door, get their belt on, show them where to put their shoes, show them how to mark their attendance, show them where the family can sit to watch the class, so on and so forth, and actually doing that first class. So today we're going to pick up right from that spot and discuss what happens after they take that first class. So after your trial student's first class is when they will receive their what we call how was the first class survey. Tracking attendance is important for these trial students because if they are not there for their class, then within a day you should be following up with them. You do not want them to get in the habit of not coming to their class. So if they do come to that first class, we want to send them a quick survey just to kind of give them an opportunity to give us any feedback, initial feedback on the studio or the school or how that first class went. And if they aren't showing up to that first class, we need to make sure that we are contacting them, finding out why they didn't come to that class, and then moving forward to get them to actually make it to one of those classes. When you do this kind of contact for someone who didn't show up for their class, this contact method should be a phone call. This will make the touch more personal. When they are nearing the end of their trial, the automation should have a survey asking them what they like best about the program so far, and if they plan on enrolling in your program. If they do plan to enroll, find out what payment option they like best, and there's a few things worth noting about that. We do have a couple different options that you can pay with, meaning you can pay once a year, you can pay once a quarter, once a month, twice per month, and alternatively you could pay weekly. Having these options can help you overcome some of the standard payment objections. Having the option of breaking the payment into smaller chunks really helps some students and some families when they go to enroll. Alternatively, instead of chunking down the payments, you may want to provide an incentive for those larger payments. So maybe for a yearly payment, you kind of include a benefit to paying a year up front. So, if I pay a whole year of tuition up front rather than doing my weekly payments, maybe it's a certain percentage off. So you actually end up saving money paying that full year to kind of incentivize them and try to get them to increase the chance of making that sale. Now, again, this is what's going to happen after the trial period is up. So they've come to their trial classes and they've done all the trials that were free to them, and then you need to sit down and discuss the payment method or provide them with the options of payment. This doesn't include the people that don't show up for the trial. So we mentioned earlier, if they don't show up for the trial, you need to call them, find out how to get them into that class, find out how to get them into a trial, do it with that phone call so it's more personal, and then get them in so they can start that process of doing their full or entire free trial, and then moving into what we're talking about now, and discussing the payment, moving forward from there. Now, depending on how they answer that survey you send, asking them what they like best about your program, you'll need to know if they plan on enrolling and how. If you have the opportunity or option to have them take care of the sign-up process all online, then send them the agreement through the email. This will help to alleviate needing to take the time to do this in-house. If this is not an option, then at least when you sit down with them, you will know that they are ready to sign up and how they plan on paying. Depending on how you run your trial program, meaning if you only gave them a belt, now would be the time to get them their official uniform and any other things that they might need leading into being an enrolled student. Now that you have a new student, the next step is to retain them as that student. After you have a new student enroll in your program, send them a welcome to the family letter in the mail. Yes, the regular, actual, physical snail mail something that we don't talk about or use very often anymore. But think about it. Everyone loves getting personalized letters in the mail. Take the extra time to do this because it will bring the program to a next level. And again, like the phone call earlier, it adds a more personal touch to this interaction. Also, after they enroll, you can get them to set up on any apps or online curriculums that you have. After a month or so in your program, send them an email or text message asking how they are liking the program. This is also a great time to see if they know anyone who would benefit from your program, and if so, they can send a referral link or card to give their friend or family the option of trying the classes.
So as you heard a few times in that last section, we talked a little bit about setting things up and doing things automatically. We do that by setting automations in our system. The system that we use is Spark, and Spark is a great, powerful tool and has the ability to set up and do things automatically, which is, as you can imagine, hugely beneficial. It can see that this person does X and then it sends them Y automatically based on what their action was. That means that's one less step or a handful of less steps that you personally have to be in your business to do, because your system can take care of it without you physically being there or pushing the button for it to happen. It just goes, it works, it does it automatically. So automations. You can have automations set up to do an email or a text campaign, set up from some web forms. So if somebody opts into your program, they fill out the web form, they can be automatically sent a text message or an email following up and getting them to do the next step, whatever that may be for you. Or at least you can have it send a task to say, hey, this person filled out the web form. Now give them a call to get their class set up or whatever the next step is. But if you have that set as an automation, you can have that automation just send a task or send a text message or send an email or whatever it is. But based on what the client does, what the student does, the customer does, it will allow you the opportunity to fill in the blank with automatically sending them or automatically setting up a task for your office personnel to call them or get something else set up for them automatically. That is, I think, the biggest part to that. Does those things without needing a button pushed, or you don't have to click the switch or turn it on. It just goes. It works. It does it automatically, which is hugely beneficial. Hugely beneficial. Even after somebody comes to your class for the first time, they register for your class. They've already registered for your class. They've came in. They've done their first class. That after that first class, we talked a little bit about, but that can be where it sends, how was your first class? It sends them a survey to check in and say, how was your first class? And did you have any issues finding your school? Did the student learn anything new? And you can even have it set up where it puts their name in there. So did Johnny learn anything new? Did Johnny have fun in his class? How would you rate your first experience with us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. How likely are you to recommend us to a friend of yours? And again, that is huge in terms of getting feedback on how your process is going. Now, those questions that you get answers for are hugely beneficial, direct feedback on what their experience was like, and perhaps even different insights or different things that you can do to help to improve, obviously not that person's experience, but the next person's experience, and so on all the way across. So the more feedback that you can get about your program, things people like, things people don't like, gives you an opportunity to improve that program and make that better for everybody. That automatic survey that goes out to the student after they came to you for the first time is where that can get set up at. Now, of course, that not everybody that tries your program enrolls. So you will get more feedback from that first class experience than you will have students, or than you will have new students, rather. And again, that feedback you can use, check in on those things, look at that, so that you can critique and move and improve that system, that process for the next round of new students that you have. Now, going back a step, after that person sets up their first class with you, right? There's some information they may need to know about your school, like your address. How do they get to your school? How long do they or should they expect to be there? That will be something that you can automatically have sent them. If they paid for your trial, if you have a paid trial, they paid for it, then they get a receipt. In that receipt, of course, you can tell them, thank you for purchasing your trial membership with us. We look forward to meeting and servicing you and your family. If you have any questions, you can message us at this account, this email, this text message, whatever the platform for that is, and then say, here are some facts about your school. We are, the only full-time martial arts school in the area. We employ, all that different things that you think that your clients might want to know about you. You can have that sent automatically, and perhaps there's more information. So perhaps that's a longer, more of a drip or a campaign type system. So you have it set up where after their first class, they get the how was your first class survey. Then before their next class, they say, hey, these are some things to expect from our program. And then maybe, the following week, they say, okay, hey, here's some information about our instructors, our team of teaching staff. Okay, and then before then, and so on, you can see how over the course of their trial with you, you can be delivering key points to them all the way across. What that'll do is a couple things. That will be a consistent reminder that you are still there. It'll be harder for them to forget, oh yeah, hey, I have to go to karate, because they're consistently, or at least frequently, seeing things from you, getting more information from you. On top of that, you can be the guide that's kind of setting up the key benefits for your program. So you know what the key benefits for your program are. Everybody else has told you what they are. But if the new clients, the new students don't know what to be looking for when they show up to your class, they may not be seeing those benefits, or they may not be seeing the right benefits. They may see future benefits, but not benefits right now that's going to immediately impact their student. So say, hey, listen, in this class, you're going to be looking at and getting improvement on focus. And this is some of the ideas or the concepts or the ways that we'll go about improving your child's focus or your focus as an adult. Whatever your key benefits are, let them know those, and then give them an opportunity to look for those. Because if you are looking for something, you're more if you are, I know what I want to say. I'm not sure how to word it.
You're trying to say, if you know what to look for, then you'll notice it, or you'll more likely to see the benefit if you know what you're looking for.
Those things, yes. Another step you can have in this automation for new trial students is, as you are letting them know about your school, let them know about how the classes work. How many classes are they going to be expected to come to? How much is your program? So if you haven't already covered the pricing for the pricing structure, how that whole system works for you and your school, you can have that happen on an automatic system that will go out to them when they reach their third class or their first class or before their first class. However you want to set it up, it can be already done. How do they tie their belt? Of course, you can go over that, and you will go over that as they come in for the first time, but they'll be overwhelmed with so many brand new things. Let them know again, right? And lots of this stuff they might have already have heard when they were on the phone or read in the initial agreement that you sent to them. Letting them know, reminding them is not a bad thing, right? They're just, oh yeah, right, they did say that. Oh, that is how I tie my belt, right? I forgot. Because there's so many other things that are happening, so you're just reminding them. And these would be like the frequently asked questions, right? What are the questions that you answer so many times you're just tired of answering? Well, that's what this does. This will help to answer those questions before they're questions. Or people will ask the question, you know what, I already have an email that's going to be sent to you tomorrow and it's going to go over the whole thing. Oh, okay, great, perfect. And then after reading that email or after getting that video or whatever, however you have it set up, then after watching that or listening to it or reading it, let me know. Then if you have some more questions, we can talk about it. Oh, okay, great, wonderful. Right? So answer those frequently asked questions before they're asked, or at the very least know that they're going to be asked and have a system in place to answer those questions. Of course, you can sit down with each trial student and do all of this stuff. Sit down in person, face-to-face, or over the phone and have Johnny and his parents there and have this all delivered to them face-to-face. Now, that is a fine way that absolutely adds a personal touch to you and your program. And if you have the staffing or the spacing or the opportunity to do that, that probably is a better touch, is less sort of cold feeling. It does mean you actually have to do that for all of your people each and every time you have a trial person. So there is some give and take to it. But if you sat down with them and had that face-to-face meeting, when would you schedule? You'd have another day to schedule it. May be tough depending on how your classes go. If you did it during the time that, let's say Johnny was in class, the mom or dad or grandma, whoever brought the child is missing out in that class. And if it's an adult, then you'd have to schedule it so they're either missing part of their class or it's before or after their class. Then you have to make sure you get it in, and scheduling them becomes a difficult situation for not just for you and your schedule, but for them and their schedule. So while there are some benefits, I think, to doing it face-to-face, there are also a few downsides to it. Number one, first and foremost, the downside is taking the time. If you are short on staff or you don't have that extra person to be able to associate with just sitting down and meeting face-to-face with your trial students, then how do you function? How do you do that? Well, you have the automation that'll take care of all that stuff for you. If it's an adult and they can only make it for that class, they can't be here before, they can't be here after because they have other priorities, other commitments, then again, that becomes difficult. So if that is your solution, if your method is to sit down and talk with them face to face, then have a backup plan, a contingency plan of the automations that will drip those informations or those emails, those text messages, those videos out to your clients so they can get a feel for what that stuff is without missing that because they couldn't be there to sit down to talk to you face to face. Now, if you can do that, if you can have it set up to do it face to face, great. Again, that adds a huge personal touch. But if that doesn't happen, have it as an automation. We have done it both ways in the past. Currently, we have it as an automation. So that means previously we had it as a face-to-face. Face-to-face wasn't bad. It did take extra time. That meant when we did it face-to-face, we had all of our trials come in on a Friday. Fridays for us are set aside for one-on-one lessons, and that was okay. That worked. There were a couple tough kind of sticking points to that, and one of those was they came to a time and a day that they don't and would not normally come to. So that might fit. Fridays might fit in their system or in their schedule, in the student's schedule, but that Monday, Wednesday time didn't. Or they thought that since their first class was on a Friday, all of their classes were on a Friday, right? And so even though we're telling them these things and we're letting them know when their class is and how, they still thought that, oh, this is the time I come because that's why I came first. Well, no, were you listening when we were talking? We talked about this. Oh yeah, I remember. I forgot because we came here first on a Friday. Yes. Right. So that was kind of an issue. And then again, for us, it became a staffing issue, right? We didn't always have that person set aside to be able to do that. Or that person that was set aside to do that didn't always have the availability or all the answers to the questions that the clients had. They were asking questions that weren't pre-thought out, and that person that was answering those questions were like, oh yeah, hey, that's a good question. I'll take note of that, and then I will be able to get you the answer before you come next, which is a fine way to do it. But then again, that's just extra friction because That's extra opportunity for those students, those clients to think, man, they don't know the answer to this question, right? So revamping and rethinking about that program or that process. We set it up as an automation. We were able to plug in those key factors, those key benefits, those frequently asked questions and answers to those. And because it's in a drip type system, we were able to give them actually more information, more answers to questions that they might not even think about yet, because it's spread out over a larger length of time. And that's all based and all because we have that automatic system in place that just does it. It works. It does its own thing. We don't have to, once it's set up, we don't have to touch it. If we want to change or add something to it, sure, but it just goes. We don't have to think about it. It just happens.
I will say the automations are nice because, they come in, you get their belt on, get their whole onboarding first class process done. And then as it's happening, at some point you mention to them, hey, just so you know, over the next few days or next few weeks, I'm going to be sending you some videos that go over the program, just kind of answer any frequently asked questions that we have and give you some more information. Of course, at any time, if you need anything, just let me know. I'm happy to help you. And then, that's it. That's all you got to do. Then you can move on to the next person or move on to the class or move on to what you're doing. And that's nice because it saves time and you don't have to sit down and do a whole process with that. One downside to that is you don't know if they watch those videos or not. You can't guarantee they're going to watch those videos. Another downside is it may seem less personal because you're not having that sit down conversation with it. I would argue that this day and age people don't mind that anyways. They don't mind not having a whole meeting and conversation or whatnot. But again, you can't guarantee they're going to watch those videos unless they're really curious about what's going on, or they really want to make sure they're in the loop of everything, because often is the time too, you'll have people come ask you questions that were answered in the videos you sent them, but they didn't happen to watch the video. And you want to look at them and say, well, if you would have watched the video I sent you, you know the answer to that. But of course, we can't do that. We have to be good customer service representatives and answer the question they have anyways. But again, videos are nice. You can get them done quick. You're just a lot less hands-on. You just don't know if they're going to watch them or not. And alternatively, a face-to-face meeting, you're able to say everything you need to say with a captive audience in front of you. You know they're there. You know that you've told them. But then, of course, again, you have to contend with time issues. You have to also contend with the fact of whether or not they remember everything you told them. And then again, you have to make sure that the person that is dealing with that stuff actually has the answer to all those questions. So, as we're talking about this, there are upsides and downsides to both of them. I guess it just depends on the way your program works, the way your schedule works, how much staff you have, how many questions you want to make sure are answered in that time frame. And like Mr. Bean said, it wasn't a overnight thing. After several years of doing this, we kind of were able to compile a lot of the frequently asked questions and a lot of things that we know people are curious about or need to know about the program, and then develop a system of videos that periodically we'll disperse to them and give them information. And that's the other nice thing too about videos is it's not a total bombardment at once. Here's all this information.
Right, and it's like a 30-minute information dump. Here's all this stuff, and to think that they're going to remember 5% of that 30 minutes you just sat and talked to their face is going to be challenging.
Right. You can chunk down that 30 minutes into a handful of videos and, have it come out over 2 weeks or something. Okay. Every other day they get a shorter video or a short video, and then you get another short video here and there. It makes it more manageable for them. And not to mention they can view it in their own time whenever it's convenient for them. And they're also able to go back to watch that video. So maybe they watch the video and they forget, oh, well, where do I park? Or they forget, oh, well, what's the program going to cost? Whenever we end up telling them that, they can always go back and check out that video and be reminded of that information. So again, there's pros and cons to both. You just got to figure out what works best for you. And right now we're using automations and it's working well for us. But in the past we have done a lot of face-to-face stuff, and there are benefits to both of them, to both of those options.
And, we've actually touched on automations in the past in our podcast. We talked about the practice cards. Practice cards are set up on an automatic system. They get this belt, And then 7 days or 14 days after that belt, they get this practice card. And then 7 days later after that one, they get this one, and so on. So we've talked about automations before. So there's so much you can do with automations. Don't think that automations is only set aside or is only beneficial for new trial students, because certainly the students that you already have can be getting you can have set up automations to do all kinds of different things based on when they earn a rank, based on how many classes they came to. And of course, this depends on your system. Again, we use Spark, so those are some of the verbiages, as it were, that we do use. Just know that if the time comes that you, for whatever reason, change something in your program, right? Let's take this new trial students, for example. If you change the price of your program, or if you change the days or the class times of your program, and you have that on the video, if you have a video, then you'll have to reshoot that video or reword that email or both, right? So just understand that if you do decide to change something, it's not just, oh, okay, change is made, done. You don't have to do anything, but you have to think about and then find and figure out what automations are set to go out, what, like, almost having like a mind map sort of, and say, okay, this, they start here and then they get this and then they get this and so on. And with those different things, you need to know what's associated with those, okay? And if you make this one change, what does that one change affect? And out of those things it affects, what do you need to change so that it is reflected in the information your clients are getting, right? And another note is, if you have a video, right? If you choose to do a video for your trial students, to let them know this this information, then two things I would say about that. Number one, video is great. Video works. People, I think, will be more apt to watch a video than they would be to read an email. That being said, do both, right? Have the email that is basically the script that you would read for the video, and then have the video, so that you are covering sort of two learning styles for those clients. You have video and you have whatever reading is. Would you count that as audio? Would you count it as... No. Do you see the idea I'm trying? Yeah, you have video, so some people can watch the video and pick up the information that way, and listen to you talk, and some people just want to read, and maybe the reading is better for if, after they watch the video, then they want to go back and, oh yeah, that's what he said, right? Now I know, right? And so just having that is, I think, a small extra step, because you probably have a script that you're going to go from for your video. Just maybe clean it up a little bit, make it look a little pretty, put some bullet points in or something, and then drop that in your email, right? Then you're covering, maybe it's not two different learning styles, but at least you're covering two different mediums of content, right? You have the video, and then you have the text-based, right? So that's a small thing you can do. Now, specifically with your video, the shorter that video is, of course, the more apt they are to watch it. I can't say that if all of your videos are 1 minute, everybody's going to watch it, because that you can't do that. But I can say, if you have a 25-minute video, not everybody's going to sit and watch for all 25 minutes. But if you had 21-minute videos, they may be more apt to watch that full minute before the next week when they get sent the next minute. Right? You see the difference there, right? They're getting the same information. It's actually the same length, but you separated it out, so they're getting smaller chunks at a time. Smaller chunks are always better. Again, to sit and watch a video about their child's or their martial arts training class for half an hour, okay, that's not going to happen. To expect that that's going to work and function that way, no. Right? Have 5-minute maybe 5-minute video, and even 5 minute might be pushing. I would say probably it's safe to be closer to 3 minutes, right? Unless you're doing jumping jacks and hooping and hollering and try to stay captivating, but 3 minutes. And then, of course, have that 3-minute script right in the email. It's not going to be a very long email. They'll be more apt to read that. They'll be more apt to watch it. Better all around. Yes, that means you have to spread it out further. Yes. But they'll be more apt to consume that content that you deliver to them.
And as useful as automations are, depending on what the automation is for, this might be self-explanatory too, but I think it's important to mention that depending on what the automation is, we don't want to entirely remove ourselves from the process. So, for example, practice cards as automations. We don't have to have a physical presence, or we don't have to do anything on our end. Those practice cards just run, the students take them, and we get the email, and maybe from the email we say something to them in class about, hey, I saw you did your practice card, good job, so on and so forth. But my point here is, when a new student starts, don't just put them in the automation and then never talk to them again, because the automation follows up with them. The automation's there. The automation will deal with it. No, you still need to put yourself physically in front of them, make a connection with them, build a relationship, talk to them, ask them if they have any questions, make sure that they're finding benefit in the program, so on and so forth. So automation is not a way for you to click a button and then walk away and do nothing. You still need to make sure that you are servicing your client and developing a positive relationship with them, being available to them for any assistance they need, and don't let that automation replace that physical face-to-face. Let it aid you and guide you in dealing with some of that stuff where, instead of making 5 phone calls to your student, you make 1 at the end after they've gotten 4 automation steps here or there. So again, this doesn't completely remove you from the situation. It just makes it a little bit easier for you to service many to service more people at once, and not have to do as much work. Not to sound lazy, but to be efficient. Where again, that can do 4 things and all you have to do is 1, rather than you doing the 5 things. But don't forget that 1 step where you are involved and you are taking care of things. And of course, that's not for every automation. Some automations can just be a click of the button and then walk away. But make sure that, again, you're not using that as a cop out to not put the effort in and actually invest into your student. It's just a tool. It's an aid. It's a helping hand in making some of the stuff easier for you.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but it's like you said, it's a tool. You have to know when and how to use that tool. When is it appropriate to use a hammer, and when should you be using a screwdriver or a crowbar or whatever the tool is, right? Know when and how to use that tool, and don't use the wrong tool for the job, right? So utilize the automations as a tool, and just think about it that way.
Right, and I think one of the reasons we put this in the after the first class type episode is that, this is very beneficial and very helpful, especially for that first surge of students in your beginner's class. So, after they're been in the program for a long time, they kind of know how things work, and you've had time to build your relationship and had your time to develop those things and so on and so forth. But just the nature of the business, you might have 20 trial students start in a month and only end up signing up 5 of them by the end of their trial and whatever and whatnot. So having these automations that help us to kind of deal with that surge of students and remove us as much as we need to be removed to help that go smoothly is very crucial, especially at that beginning phase. Of course, it's implemented later and throughout the entire program, but especially at the beginning, rather than having to deal with all 20 students, sending each of them 15 emails and doing 3 phone calls and 7 text messages for each person. It just makes all that so much easier, especially at the beginning. And, as it tapers out and narrows down in that funnel of trial students into actually enrolled students, we're able to deal with things more ourselves and then still use automations as a tool and to our benefit. But that's kind of the reason that this is in the after first class episode, is because that is one point in your program. It's going to be very beneficial to have those systems set up and have those automations available to you to assist in that process.
Yeah, I can remember thinking about that. If you have a large surge of students, doing a face-to-face sit-down will be potentially impossible. I can remember, it's been several years now, but we did a Karate for Christmas promotion. Yep, there we go. We did a Karate for Christmas promotion where we had 70 new students happen all at one time, right? So we had basically what Karate for Christmas is. The We put the ads out and say, hey, you can give karate to your child or to yourself as a Christmas present. You get to wrap up. We give them a uniform. They get to wrap it up. They put it under the Christmas tree, open it up. Whoa, cool! I get to go to karate, and then that they get 2 months of training or whatever it is. But one of the years that we did that, for whatever reason, we didn't do anything different. But we had a huge surge, like 70 some people came in to do that, and it was like we just had normal classes going on, and then boom, first class back in January, 70 new people. Of course, that's spread out over 2 days, but that's a lot of brand new people to sit down face to face with 70 people. I mean, for the staff that we had then and even now, it's not feasible to do. Not feasible to do. And out of that 70, I think we had close to 45 or 50 actually enroll and continue, which is huge, right? So our classes went from being pretty okay size to huge overnight because 70 people brand new. And again, they had that promotion for 2 months. So they came to class for 2 months and we had 70 people to service on top, 70 new people to service on top of the people that we already had. So having an automation in place for situations and times that stuff like that happens will hugely benefit not only just your those new trial students, but also your current students. Because if you are consistently delivering and working on and talking to only just those new trial people, who's talking with and to and at those people, those students that you've had that are already part of your program, part of your family, right? You have to be able to bridge the gap and do both. So having automations in instances like that helps fill that gap so you can be there for those new people if they have questions on top of those automations they're getting. And you can also be there to facilitate your core, quote unquote, family students that have already been there training with you for X amount of time, as opposed to leaving them to fend for themselves and only dealing with the new people or vice versa. Right. And of course, that doesn't happen hardly ever. I think in all the years we've done Karate for Christmas, that was a huge spike that for whatever reason that happened. And we've had other promotions that have been pretty well, but 70 people overnight, all at one time, that was a tough couple months of classes, and even close to a year or so years after that, because again, 50 people signed up and a good portion of those made it to black belt and beyond. So that was a growing experience, kind of an eye-opening experience to say, okay, these are the different things and different systems we have to have in place because of stuff like this. Again, that doesn't always happen, but you need to be mindful and have things in place for if or when you have huge growth potential like that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I think that's a good look at how to help our students dive into the program following that first class, and a good way to use automations in order to assist you not only in the beginning there, but also continuing down the program. Do you have anything else to add, sir?
Yeah, just again, remember that automations are a tool. Use them as a tool and use them in the right situation. Don't lean on them too much, but if you have access to them, don't shy away from them, because they're powerful and they can do a lot of very beneficial things for you.
Yes, sir. As always, we are on the social media. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's all of them.
I think that's all of them.
No, I'm confused. You're getting me slacking over here. On all those platforms, you can find us at MA Teaching Tactics, MA for Martial Arts, Teaching Tactics. Again, that is MA Teaching Tactics. And please reach out. Let us know some ways that you like to make connections with your students after they start your program. If you use automations, what are some of the reasons or ways that you use those automations to help benefit you and help your program to run a little bit smoother? Or just, reach out and tell us you like what we're doing, and we appreciate the support that we have and the listeners that do listen. And I hope that over 30 episodes, something that we have said has either benefit you or has helped you look at your students or your program differently, and really help to perpetuate and accentuate the student first mindset that we have and that we strive to work with, not only to benefit your school, but also to benefit those people and help each individual grow to their full potential. Until next time, I'm Chris Kent.
And I'm Chris Bean.